Welcome to Real Zeal, a podcast like no other, brought to you by yours truly, Trish Burke, ADHD, loud, proud and unfiltered. I'm absolutely honoured to bring you all of the topics, big to small and everything in between, in a way that is honest, truthful, with a veil of compassion, all in the name of ensuring everyone feels heard and validated. I can't wait to host a myriad of guests that will blow your mind, and we're going to have candid conversations. They will absolutely knock your socks off. So get your tissue box ready for the tears that you might shed. Pad up because you're going to piss yourself laughing. Strap yourself in and get yourself ready for some Real Zeal. Well, hello and welcome to Real Zeal episode 1. I am your host, Trish Burke, and I've brought a friend, not only a friend, my best friend. This is my bestie.
Hi.
And my love and my husband. You got so many titles.
I do. This is
lucky
true.
ducky. Stop looking at the computer.
Well, I want to.
It's recording. We're doing the first one ourselves at home. This is not the usual setup. I have this excellent archway that I made Tim make for me. Actually, I asked him nicely. But yeah, it's like the 11th hour because that's when the dopamine dropped. So that's why we're doing this in the lounge room at 11 p.m. at night, 3 days before we're going to drop the podcast.
Should I introduce myself now?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Hi. For the listeners.
Yeah, for the listeners. Hi, I'm Tim. I'm Tim Burke. I'm Trish's husband. And I get the pleasure of joining Trish today on the first episode of Real Zeal and asking some questions. I'm prepared. I've brought a notebook and I've got some questions written down. No doubt we'll start there and then move off into...
Who wrote the questions, Tim? Can we just confirm your handwriting, obviously, but who's the control freak in the relationship?
No, you gave me 2 or 3 questions, but I wrote the other ones on this page because you said you wanted questions that you hadn't heard before.
Yeah, so the shock factor will be there, and strap yourself in and get yourself ready for some Real Zeal.
So clearly we've already started, but the first question I wanted to ask was why this podcast? What does this podcast mean to you? And what do you want this podcast to mean to your listeners?
That's a lot of questions. They are both excellent questions. I feel like that deviated from the OG question that I gave you. But
yeah, that's true. You wanted some surprise element though.
And now that I've waffled, I've forgotten what the question was.
I'll go back to the first one.
Part A.
Why this podcast?
Well, I just think that so many of us are thinking thoughts in our mind and everyone else is thinking it. But at the end of the day, because they don't have ADHD like me, they have impulse control and they keep it in their brains and they just ruminate on those thoughts, and it's like holding in a fart. It just doesn't work for you, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable. But I just let my farts out, actually my thoughts, which are like glitter farts.
And farts.
I don't fart a lot. That's not the question. So the whole idea of this podcast is to have some very real conversations with a bit of zeal infused, which is voila, myself. And we're going to be talking on this podcast, and it's not always going to be Tim and myself. It's actually going to be myself and excellent guests that I have lined up. And we're going to be talking very candidly, very authentically, and very openly about the big issues, the small issues, and everything in between. And there'll be some hilarity, and there will be some tears, and there will be a lot of laughter, and there will be no filter, people. So you might want to know now that this is not the podcast necessarily for little ears to be listening to. And there might be a few F-bombs and SH-bombs, but definitely not the C-bomb. The 4-word C-bomb is not for me.
So,
or the N-bomb, which is a racial slur.
So...
I just poked my tongue out on the camera.
Yeah, I saw that. That's okay. So then who's it for? Who's your primary target audience for this podcast?
Just for the peeps of the world that, I don't know, who is it for? I guess really at the end of the day, as an ADHD myself, and I feel like this is unpacking the story in a weird way, but I think at the end of the day, it is about people feeling validated and heard for going, oh my goodness, I thought that too. Thank goodness Trish brought it out in the open, chatted to someone about it, And now I don't feel so alone in this space of having these thoughts and trying to hold them in like a fart. Don't hold your farts in, people. It's unhealthy. A doctor will tell you that.
So I want to come to your point then about connection, because I know that connection is really important to you. So if you were to meet somebody for the first time, or if I was to re-meet you for the first time, what would be 2 or 3 things that you'd really like me to know about you?
Well, you tell me what I said to you when we first met, my love.
Oh, I forget. It's a very long time ago. No,
it was not even that long ago. We are in our middle age, although a lot of people would feign against saying that 40 is middle age. But let's be honest, people.
No, but I feel like the conversation we had when we first met was really like the mechanics of who people are. Like, what do you do for a job? What's your family? You know, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I feel like this podcast has a slightly different flavour from that. So, like, if we're trying to get to know you as a person, you know, are there particular things that you're like, actually, this is really important to me? You know, for instance, music. I know music is really important to you.
So important.
But would that be something that you would, you know, tell a
that might be an episode. I might tell people that I love music. I like to make music in the shower. I like to sing in the shower. I like to be percussive when I'm driving. But I also sing and play the guitar. I've written a number of songs in my multiple eras of life. And I just think that being able to express yourself through music, because our brains have 2 sides, and one side's all about the information and the other side is like the creative side, the left side of the brain. And I really hope I'm remembering that correctly. Is that right? Yes.
I'll just say yes. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Well,
we can
for
Google,
the neuroscientists out there later, just like don't hate me. I'm admitting that I might have it wrong. But there are 2 sides to the brain, and we don't just operate out of one hemisphere. We operate out of both, and they're actually joined. And the whole idea of our brain is to have everything uniquely connected. So connection is not for me just about the people. Connection is also about our brain and our body and our thoughts and our feelings and emotions all also being interconnected. And we are really like very complex beings, us humans. And I just love unpacking how different people think and how they engage with the world and how they process information that the world is giving. So that's something that I really want to bring into the space, to share that and to unpack the brilliance of other people's minds and the way they process things. And that's part of having different guest speakers. Guests come and have a chat with me, just openly, casually, and we just see where that conversation goes. And hopefully our listeners are going to grow from those conversations, going to grow from those offerings, and it's going to cause them to have a little wandering and a little thought of their own. And hopefully that as human beings will help us to continue in our growth journey, because I don't think we've ever arrived. I don't think we've ever completed and become the best versions of ourselves. I think that continues to evolve over life. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of information that comes out of this. Some of it's just going to be a bit cray-cray. Some of it's going to be bloody funny. And some of it's going to be so serious and deep. But I think at the end of the day, we need a little bit of light and shade in our lives. And I hope this podcast will offer that to the listeners. And if not, it's just an excellent outlet for my incredible blabbermouth. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So I often comment that we move at quite different speeds, and maybe I'll come back to that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned a few times that obviously you have ADHD, and if I'm understanding correctly, part of one of the things that you want to talk about in this podcast is neurodiversity and how we can be more inclusive and help people learn about that space, for lack of a better way of talking about it. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your journey has been like with ADHD? And I'll probably rephrase it. I won't want to call it a journey, because it's you, and you know, it's your life. And yeah, I'll stop talking and tell me a little bit about ADHD and what that's looked like for you, probably recently, but then also thinking back over the earlier parts of your life as well.
Such a good question, Tim. Such a good question. And I think sometimes, a lot of the time, for neurodivergent individuals, you are born knowing that you don't quite fit. You feel like a square peg in a round hole, or a shape-shifting peg in a hole that's not meant for whatever shape you are. And for the entirety of my childhood, life was hard work. Now, it didn't look like hard work on the outside. On the outside, people would have seen a girl that tried really hard, and we now know from Dr. Billy that saying try hard equals fail hard. So I practiced hard at being excellent. And I found that if I just perfectionized the shit out of everything and did really, really well at everything, I got lots of claps and I got lots of praise, and my parents loved it. You know, I'm from a very multicultural family. So my dad's Dutch and my mum's Indonesian. They both met in very different seasons of life. My dad's 19 years older than my mum. And so technically speaking, there's 3 generations in my nuclear family growing up. And I'm the oldest of 2, so I've got a younger brother, and I just said he's younger. He's nearly 4 years younger than me. And so I was the kingpin for nearly 4 years. I was excellent, to be honest. I mean, I was speaking in full sentences by the age of 18 months, and I could speak in 2 languages by that age, and you couldn't shut me up. This little mole just here, I look like Dr. Evil, but this little mole just above my top lip, I was born with that. So the Cindy Crawford mole, for those in that era. But yes, so my mum used to call it my little chatterbox spot. I would not shut up. I would talk an ear off a donkey if I was near one, or anyone else that would listen, to be honest. I would talk to myself, I would sing to myself. I was just blah, blah, blah from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to sleep. And if I wasn't doing it out loud, there was a lot of commotion in my mind. Everything just seemed really challenging, particularly when I hit the teen years. I reckon I spent so much time just wondering why I couldn't. Like, I'm a very organised person, and that's, I think, something innately inbuilt into me from my dad, who's such an excellent human, Tim. You know this. Like, I absolutely idolise my dad. I call him Pa because that's short for Papa, and that's what I called my parents, Papa and Mama, growing up. Except I really resented that because all the other kids at my school got to call their parents Mum and Dad. So I've kind of like lilted to Mum for my mum and Pa for my dad. But he's not a grandpa, he's just Pa, but he's quite old. But he's young at heart. Oh my gosh. Like, he's Dutch, he's literally going to be riding on his bike and then just fall off the perch riding his bike, doing something. Or like, yeah, he still cleans my gutters, you know, right up until we got married. He would clean my gutters for me, balancing on a ladder precariously, much to the disgust of our neighbours, you know, and he's in his early 80s now and still pedals around Bendigo. That's where I grew up, country Victoria. He still rides his bike around Bendigo to run errands, to go to the shops. He like is mad for Aldi now. I digress, soz. But in my teen years, it was, you're going to have to pull me in, my love, because that's like, so that's the ADHD. Yeah. But in the teen years, I was really big on getting good grades. I think that's really part of the way I was raised as well, to give it your best, but your best, it pains me to say it, but like even when I got 98%, the question always was, what happened to the other 2%? And it's not that my parents didn't love me or didn't think I was excellent, but that question was often verbalized to me, and I would be like, oh shit, like 98% is not enough, I need to get 100. So then I started clocking 100% for assignments, for tests, and I was absolutely rewarded for leaving everything to the last minute, because I would just be like so busy doing other stuff, procrastinating, living my best life, flirting with boys in the IT lab. Like, I had the good life in high school, but I would leave everything to the last minute. And my parents will tell you that my light would be on and it would be 11:30 at night, and my bedtime used to be 10 p.m. and I would be still writing the first draft on the computer with my bad touch typing because I was too busy flirting in class to actually learn to do it properly. I can kind of do it, but I still look at my fingers. Sorry, digression again. There's going to be a lot of side quests in this podcast, but that's part of the ADHD. Lucky you, whoever is in the chair. So there was a lot of perfectionism just to try and, but I did ballet for 12 years. I know I don't look it now, people, but I had a Trish's hot era back in my high school years, and I did 12 years of classical ballet. And my ballet teacher, God bless her, I was a lot for her. I'm a lot at the moment for you and our family, but my kids are used to it. You're getting used to it. Our youngest is getting used to it. But, in ballet class, she would go, Trisha, do I have to put a bag of horse feed over your head to shut you up? And I'd be like, ugh. So there was a lot of masking in high school, which led to a lot of internal combustion because, perfectionists can't show the meltdown on the outside. They can't show the big tears. So I channeled a lot of that into writing music and writing songs.
So ballet's kind of known as a perfectionist sport. Like the whole endeavour is to get everything.
Well, I didn't have the feet, but I had the heart, to quote centre
I don't know.
stage.
Do we call it a sport? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's not in the Olympics, but I feel like maybe breakdancing made it, so maybe ballet should. It's quite elite.
Yeah, I think it'd do well. It did very well. But does perfectionism still run as a thread now for you? Like if you fast forward in time to...
Yeah, 1,000,000%. So I think we were watching a reel the other night, tucked up in bed, because that's what we do to unwind, and we pebble. So you would throw me a reel and I would throw you one back, and that's how neurodivergent people in particular communicate connection. There's like, hey, I saw this and I thought of you, but we don't write that. We just send it to the person. And then the people usually on the receiving end would put a little emoji of like receptivity and then usually flick something back of like kind. And that's like an open communication tool that neurodivergent individuals use a lot. Oh my goodness, I need to fix your glasses. They're a little bit skewed. Sorry. It's just so bothering my eyes. But yeah, that strain of perfectionism runs high. But the reel that we were watching, I don't know if you remember, but it was about the neurotypical husband and the neurodivergent wife. And he was like, well, I don't give 100% all the time. Like, sometimes I just give 60% or whatever. And she was like, what do you mean you don't give 100% all the time? Like, I'm always giving 100%. And he's like, yeah, but if you're cooked, you don't give 100%. Your brain is like fried. So you don't. You just give what you can. And she just couldn't get her head around his way of thinking and his perspective. And he was just laughing at her, and she was ready to throw her weighted animal at him. And anyway, I'm not saying that that's what our relationship is like. I think we're still trying to learn and understand each other's brains and the way we process things and the way we need things. And a lot of the time it's about need. I actually need certain things. I don't want them. Wanting is like, I want an ice cream, I want new shoes, I want a new dress. But in my perimenopausal era, I need linen clothing that breathes, that isn't clingy to me, so that I can actually feel like I'm not about to erupt lava out of every orifice of my body. And you hear me all the time and you see me just dripping with the sweat. And I'm so appreciative of Christmas last year. You just followed me around with that bloody fan and the extension lead. And I'm like cooking stuff, and then you're just following me and then like putting it next to me while I'm just like sweating like a mother trucker at the table. And you just have to be one of the most compassionate and understanding humans. I think, like, I don't know, tell the listeners about the perimenopause show that you made us watch, because that was bloody excellent. For those of you...
Listen to a podcast about it. That's the easy thing. Listen to a podcast, then go on.
Not all poor people are podcasters, my love. We've discussed this.
And I know that that's
I feel like that is just being like a bit square peg round holing everyone.
Okay. It's a very convenient medium, then it comes in many different forms, which is why I like it so much. But I understand that not everybody wants to sit down and listen to a long-form podcast.
Which is why so many of the most excellent podcasts that I know, like the Mel Robinson one, there is a YouTube arm of it so that you can watch it. Pop Culture Parenting also have a YouTube arm and all of that jazz. And oh my gosh, do you know what that beeping is that I just heard?
It's the washing machine.
We just had renos done, and I'm very appreciative for them. But in the moving of the laundry from the inside of the laundry to the outside space to back inside, something has fucked with our dryer and it's pissing me off. And I swear, my love, when we get back from our little Easter vacay, rest, break, Stella, blah, blah, blah. Once we get back from that, that's first on the agenda to address.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
That's fine.
Excellent. Sorry, where were we?
No, that's okay. Well, you were talking about ADHD and you were talking about your journey.
I classically had a squirrel
we
thought.
did some other things, but we can come back. That's okay. So...
Can I just say you're really cute?
Oh, thanks. So you would classify yourself as being a late diagnosis of ADHD.
Late diagnosis, but always knew something was different.
Yeah.
Something was unusual. Something was, I don't know, like it just felt bloody hard all the time, Tim. And I just used to think, is it this hard for all human beings? Like maybe they're just really good at just coping, or maybe they've just got like a super chill element, or they're like the sloth in Zootopia that just doesn't care and is like says no. I don't know. Like I used to just observe others and be like, what am I missing? Why is this hard for me? But obviously it's not hard for other people, so just shove it down and just be like everyone else.
Yeah, but you only know what you know. Like I have a friend who never realised he needed glasses and then was amazed that he could look at a tree and actually pick out individual leaves when he got glasses.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just always thought trees were fuzzy. Like they didn't have individual leaves.
Yeah.
So it's tricky because you can observe other people, but I don't actually know how hard you're working on the inside right now. You don't know how hard I'm working on the inside right
True.
now. But
yeah.
I imagine that the experience or going through like the formal diagnostic process and then, you know, the other side of that is very different to going and getting glasses where you just put your glasses on and then magically, you know, your vision's fixed, for lack of a better way of talking about it. I don't think it works that. Well, my observation is it doesn't, you know.
I think, all right, I'm going to, maybe this is the wrong analogy. We all know that I love analogies. I think it's a bit like maybe if your sexual orientation is homosexuality, for example, and you've always known that that's the way that you lived, but it's not until you actually try it or until you actually claim it for yourself that you actually go, oh, yeah, this is for me. This feels right. Probably similar to like if you find like the shoe that fits your foot the best, or I don't know, the type of bra that works for your boobies the best, whatever. There is always the right fit for you. And I think I'd always been trying to squeeze myself into something that wasn't the right fit, which absolutely drove me bonkers because I just thought maybe I'm supposed to be uncomfortable all the time. Maybe I'm supposed to be like this because I wasn't in someone else's head. But I think what I'm discovering and what I have discovered, particularly with working with kids, I'm a pediatric OT for the listeners. Tim knows this. So I'm an occupational therapist. I help individuals to become more independent with all their day-to-day things, but particularly in the space of pediatrics, which is where I've been resting of late in the last sort of 8 years or so, is that I actually have really grappled with the fact that you can spot your neurokin or like-minded thinkers across a room and you gravitate to each other like magnets. And you don't have to have a sign, you don't have to have a banner. It's kind of, I guess, like having gaydar. Not that I'm gay, I wouldn't know, but like, I think it's like that. You just have spidey sense or something like that. It's not creepy voodoo, it's not weird. And I think case in point, I met 2 people at the hospital when we were going for an appointment together, not pregnant people, just, you know, that ship is sailing away. Not sailing away. What am I doing?
I mean, we could have been going to any hospital, but sure.
I'm really just going down the path now. We're doing the hysterectomy thing because perimenopause and ADHD, they do not go together. That is another podcast. But case in point, do you remember when we were in the cafe what happened? There were 2 individuals that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell that story? Because, you know, I'm excellent and love to talk, but I feel like you should use some of your words and things.
No, I've got words, but I'm asking the questions of you.
And I'm flicking some to you now.
Okay, so we were standing in the line ordering coffee because coffee is excellent, and there was a lovely lady in front of us who had a very new bub in a pram. And I personally would have admired, said, Bob, probably gone, that's a cute baby, but not really done much else. Versus you introduced yourself to the mother and then became very interested in the baby and then offered to help her do some feeding stuff, which turned out I completely misunderstood.
I was not offering to help her feed her baby. Let's just clear that up now so people don't think I'm obsessed with other people's boobies. I'm not. What I was offering was she had her hands full with a coffee and her boobs were leaking, which she had showed us. So, like, it was all out there, peeps. It's not like I was prying.
No.
And then she was saying that her father's unwell, he's upstairs, and she just looked like she had her hands physically full, but she also looked like her brain was like a bit maxed out. And so I offered to help push her pram if she would like it. I didn't force myself on her. Let's just be clear about that. There was no forcing. I'm a helpful person. I can't look at another human, Tim, as you can't without offering help. But tell me what you said to me in the car. It was when I got back down from taking her upstairs in the lift.
This is when my memory's terrible. I can't actually.
Who's got the ADHD here? Questionable.
No, I was remembering the coffee, and I got you a chai. There you go. I remembered the coffee order.
Excellent. It was 5 p.m. everyone, so I didn't want a coffee at 5 p.m.
I have
You
no.
did. You said.
Well, I
said to me something along the lines of, "I would never have done that, my love." Like, you just basically had a very open, intimate conversation with a perfect stranger, offered to help them, took them upstairs, fully having this chat like you'd known each other forever. And I just felt really uncomfortable in that space. And I was really glad that you said, "Do you want to just wait for the coffees and I'll be back?"
Well, that's partly because I misunderstood that you were helping her to go upstairs, and that was just pushing the pram. I had visions of latching issues and
I would have happily helped with those too, had she have asked.
Yeah, but that's clearly a world that I don't usually have it of breastfeeding babies for obvious reasons.
I think we're staying in this camp a bit too long. Maybe I should move on from the breastfeeding.
I want to go back to something I talked about before, and the fact that we work at very different speeds, or we move at very different speeds. Like physically, if we go to the supermarket, you are about the quickest person to walk through the supermarket ever. I have more of a gentle amble, I would call it.
I'm efficient.
You would call me slow. But what do you find most difficult about that? And not maybe particularly with me, but obviously
with my pace versus other people's pace.
Yeah, with your paces versus other people's pace, because I think it's a really key insight into what you're thinking and how you're operating. Yeah.
So my type of ADHD is combined type. So it means I've got hyperactivity as well as inattention. Now, the really peculiar thing or interesting thing about my type of ADHD is I've got the highest level of hyperactivity, which in women or girls presents as a motor mouth, basically, not necessarily as someone that's climbing the rooftops and climbing the walls and climbing bookcases, but it is often reflected verbally in a lot of fast, like rapid fire speech and cutting people off because you've already thought what their response is, so you just moved on.
Yeah, and you say that in your particular about women and girls because obviously it can present differently in boys and men. So
often hyperactive boys and men physically look like the tornadoes in the classroom, or the guy in the office that's just so jittery and can't sit still and he's flicking his leg all the time in the meetings, and that can be seen as really distracting and really disruptive in a classroom context or in a boardroom context. But for the motor mouth women, that can be seen as really rude and really abrupt, or not patient, or not valuing the other in the conversation, which is not the case. Often for women with ADHD or girls with ADHD, finishing one sentence is actually a sign of, I know where you're going with that. I'm actually saying, I know your train of thought, I'm with you, I'm here with you, and let's just wrap this up so we can jump to the next part of the conversation, which I'm so excited for. But how that gets received on a communication point is, what a rude little bitch, and why would you cut me off? Like, I wasn't even finished talking. And it's from from my perspective, I'm not intentionally trying to cut you off to make you annoyed. I don't think humans are inherently assholes. I think humans inherently want to help each other and be there for each other and offer what they can to help the other person flourish in the moment, whether it's a stranger or whether it's someone we know deeply and personally. And so for me in a conversation, I find it really tricky because in my mind, and it will help maybe to explain what my brain looks like. So if you open your computer and open your internet browser, most people would probably maybe have 4 or 5 tabs open on their computer browser. And most IT people will tell you, that's just like drawing on the memory and the RAM and the hooja maha of your computer. I know that it's bad for your computer to have lots of tabs open. So generally speaking, most people, when they open up the internet browser, they might have a couple of tabs. They might have emails up, they might have another tab with something they're working on for work, and maybe they've got Google running in the background. Maybe they've got ChatGPT doing some grunt work for them as well. And maybe they've got another tab that's got Spotify playing in the background as a nice little playlist.
So lots of tabs is what I'm hearing.
Lots of tabs.
For normal people, maybe they're going to have, I don't know, let's give it a number, 7 tabs. But how many tabs would you typically be running?
Classic everyday moment, maybe 100. So I've probably got 30 tabs are assigned to RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. They're all the negative conversations, constructive criticisms, the one-liner throwaways that people have said that I've just taken as a dagger to the heart that I ruminate over. I'm ruminating over something currently that happened 3 weeks ago that I've had closure to, but it's like the song that doesn't end, on loop in my brain. And basically the spiral of those thoughts in those 30 tabs is, you're a worthless piece of shit, Trish. You just may as well just crawl off the earth because the earth doesn't need you. You're very messed up and you're ruining everyone's life. That's not actually always what the direct wording is, but the implication of, hey, you didn't do that right, Trish. You should actually just never do it again or try different or do something else. That is interpreted as, well, I actually gave it my best. I was very considered and thoughtful about the way that I did it. But the feedback that I'm getting is it's not valuable, it's not valued, don't do it. And that's all fair and well. But for my brain and the way it processes is, well, nobody likes you, everybody hates you, you better crawl in a hole and eat some worms and not come out. And so if you've got 30 of those running at all times, plus all of the little things that people have said, stop doing that, I don't like it, I don't want that, Mum, that's not the right lunch, how could you put that in there? Where's my little note that you said you would give me or sign for me ready to take to class? All of those things that bank up, you need 10 positive things to outweigh a negative. And if you've got ADHD, by the time you get to lunchtime, you've already had 100 redirections of stop doing that. Hey, why haven't you got your school bag yet? Why aren't you in the car? What's wrong? Why haven't you got your laces? How could you have forgotten that already? Well, I can tell you how you've forgotten that already. My attention span, I have a thought and it's gone before I can even get the book to write it down. You know this. The other day, I literally walked to the fridge saying over and over what I wanted to get out of the fridge, and then I looked in there and I went, where are my car keys and why am I even looking in here? Completely unrelated that I was talking about the car keys, and I didn't even know what I went to the fridge for, and I literally a split second before had it in my mind. And so if I have 70 other tabs that are playing songs, funny reels, movies, things that I need to come back to, remember, I've got to remember to communicate with the other co-parent in the relationship about X, Y, Z. All of those things take up so much brain space for me. And then I've got a person in front of me that requires my 100% focus, particularly in the clinical space, or a parent that's having a breakdown in front of me about how hard life is on that particular day. And I'm expected as another human to be present and to shut those tabs down. And I can't. And what science tells us is that in a neurodivergent brain, every single tab, voice, song that you're playing on repeat in your head is playing at the same volume as the fridge humming, as the person talking to you. So for me, it feels like I'm a barista in a cafe, standing behind the coffee machine, listening to the whirring that's really noisy, and every single person in that cafe, all 50 people, are shouting their order to me at the same time. And that is what every minute of every day feels like for me until I go to sleep. So to answer the question, I'm exhausted from the minute I wake up trying to tell those voices to shut the fuck up, to be honest. And I know that sometimes I'm swearing, but sometimes I just don't have enough spoons, which is French for capacity in psychology terms. It's not French, sauce for the French. But I don't have enough capacity to filter my language on top of filtering out 7 different songs that are playing, on top of filtering out the 30 rumination tabs on what stuff I've done wrong and how I've ruined someone's life, or how I didn't put something correctly in the dishwasher and now that is maybe a little bit broken for that child who was obsessed with their weird clay thing that shouldn't have gone in the dishwasher at all. That's what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day. And I'm not saying that to get sympathy, but the reality is that when I got my diagnosis, Tim, and I could start medication, and there's a lot of negative connotations about putting kids on medication for their ADHD, but I took my medication on the first day. Can you remember what I said to you at about the 45-minute mark when I was driving to work after I'd taken it?
Full of, well, euphoria is the wrong word, but your comment was that this is what, more along the lines of like, I can't believe that this is what it's like for everybody else all day, every day, in terms of the clarity of thought and just being able to slow down some of the cycles of the thoughts that were coming through your head, in and out of your head, as you would.
It was excellent. It was so excellent. And I work with families in this space that are going through that exploratory process of where their children are at, or even for themselves as parents, because often kids get their diagnosis and the parents are like, I filled out that questionnaire and that was like me to a T as well. I'm not pointing fingers in this room at all, but like, at the end of the day, I'm working that journey out with parents and I'm like, if you have a headache, you go and get the Panadol or the Nurofen or whatever, the ibuprofen or whatever, paracetamol. Or if you are cold, you get yourself a jumper. If you can't see, you put glasses on, or you get your eyes checked and you wear glasses. No one bats an eyelid about meeting those needs. But what is a hidden and a silent condition or a disease, mental health, ADHD, neurodiversity, autism, all of those things, because they're on the inside and on the outside, I look like a well put together person. I've dressed myself, I put earrings on, I have done my makeup, I've made sure it's balanced, I've made sure things tie together in terms of an aesthetic. I look put together, but on the inside, I'm a bit of a cluster F.
So do you think that's, the original question was, what's the most difficult thing about two people moving at different speeds?
Yeah.
But do you think that's one of the most difficult things about life? It's a very esoteric question, but it's invisible, but at the same time it impacts on every part of your day, but then also impacts on people around you as well, and often there is not a lot of grace or understanding in that space, particularly as an adult. I imagine that the grace that is afforded to a 3-year-old is significantly different to grace and time and space that's afforded to a 30-year-old.
Yeah. Or a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me,
I was just knocking some years off because you look great.
I love you. That's so kind. It's the half Asian, I tell you. I'm going to look excellent until I'm like 70 and then I'll look like a hag. But that's beside the point. I think you're right. The grace that is afforded to a child that is having a meltdown because they're in sensory overwhelm, because the environment is too loud or the lights are too bright, all of those things, the grace that is afforded to them is we just ride out the feelings and we wait for them to simmer, then we calm and we co-regulate, we embrace them, we affirm them when we say, hey, I'm here to help you through this. Distracting them, that's no good. That's like saying, oh my gosh, your cat died. Here's a shiny thing. No one wants to be like, here's a shiny thing when their cat died and they're sad.
No, arguably the cat would like the shiny thing, but the cat's...
The cat's dead, not the master. This is what the conversations, Tim, keep up. So you're right. The grace that is afforded to a child having a meltdown is far different. If you're an adult, you're apparently supposed to have your business together. You're supposed to have your ducks in a row. I can tell you, I know where my ducks are. But there is a million of them, and I can't get them in the same room. That's just something else. I think I've got something on my desk that says something to that effect. But my ducks are definitely not in a row. I kind of know where they are. I'm tracking them, but there's like some kind of wanderings over there and over there. It's literally like dropping your marbles, and they go everywhere in the room, and you're just like, jeepers, here we go again. Hands and knees, scooping them up, looking for that one that rolled behind the cupboard. I feel like I'm doing that day in, day out, but trying to look like everybody else in the world that seems to have their business together, that can walk in a straight line and touch their nose and do the drunk walk. I'm not drunk, but like, it's a lot of work. And, you know, the other day, I'll use this as an example. I was having my own little meltdown, and I was in the bottom of the shower recess, crying my eyes out with the water pouring down, because the shower is a regulating place for me. There's something about watching the emotion and the feelings wash down the drain. There's something quite symbolic about that. And your meaning was well-meaning, and I know that, but you were like, my love, this looks really hard, but I'm just curious, how long do you think this is going to last for? And I actually was like, all right, Trish, put pause on your meltdown and do a teaching moment so Tim can help Tim can understand you better and relay that. Like, my kids have grown up with me. They've known me their whole lives, so they know the Trish cycle, the mummy cycle of when I'm having a mummy meltdown. And so I'm having a cry in the bottom of the shower, and I get this very beautiful, curious question, phrased beautifully and curiously, but how long do you think that's going to ask? And I kind of fritzed it and said, you would never ask our youngest when they're upset how long they're going to be crying for, because this is hard and I just feel like an alien in this world. And I just was like letting it rip. And you were just quite taken aback, I think, by that response. But I just said, you would just help them and just sit with them and cry with them or hold them. I just freaking want to be held. Get in the shower and hold me. And you were very beautiful, and you stripped down and came in the shower with me, and you know, we rode out the feelings together. We rode that wave all the way to the beach, calmed down, regulated together. And then you were excellent. You got me something to eat, something to drink, meeting those basic primal needs of us as human beings, and just allowed me some space to rest and recover. There was definitely not a when's dinner going to be ready question on the back end of me just starting to come out of that. Thank heavens, because you would have died. But that care and compassion for an adult is pretty much zip all. But part of my role working with families is teaching kids to self-advocate and say, hey, I need to use fidget tools in class, or I'm not going to churn out any work for you. Or I'm going to really annoy the buggery out of everyone around me clicking my pen on repeat if I'm not able to access those tools that I need. If I'm triggered by the noise of people chewing or talking, I'm not going to be able to focus on the questions on the page. If people can't communicate their needs can't be met. So what I've been really practicing this year is actually expressing my needs in a respectful way and saying, I need my biscuits in a different container to the dip, because if I need to put the dip in the fridge, I don't want the biscuits in the fridge to get a bit soft and cold. That's a weird thing for me. I don't need that. But now in my perimenopause era, I run in hot into a conference and I go straight to one of the people that are the wait staff and I say, hi, my name's Trish. I'm going through perimenopause. I've also got ADHD. That's why I'm telling you all of this detail. It's probably unnecessary for you, but I would really appreciate if you could bring me a big glass or a big jug, even better, of ice, no water, and keep it coming, because my body is lava, and I swear if I don't cool down from the inside, I'm going to explode. And they were like, oh my goodness, can I get you anything else? And they brought out that jug of ice. They kept it topped up the whole day, and they kept coming back to me going, is everything okay? Can I get you anything else? Dude, I expressed my needs. I did not ask for extra bells and whistles of coffees and treats and snacks and whatever else, but I did get them and I maximised that. I'm all for the free things, peeps, but expressing your needs, and if people can meet those needs and in kind afford you that grace and that kindness, if people can meet those needs, excellent. If I say to you, Tim, I really need to have that really excellent pumpkin risotto for dinner tonight because I've got no spoons to chew food and I can just like and swallow it, and I love it. It's like my dopamine food. And if you had no spoons to cook it, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I will buy some risotto on the way home and I will heat it up and it won't be as yummy, but I'll get my fix and you'll go to running and happy days.
So the original question was where was difficult.
Yeah.
But,
everything's difficult, Tim.
Yeah.
Everything.
But I don't.
We are literally the neurodivergents are like the aliens of the society.
That was my segue into my next question.
Sick.
Yeah.
I read your mind. See, ADHD, apparently ADHD.
So the original question was what was hard, but I think it's false to say everything's hard because there's some really beautiful things about.
Bloody excellent. What things am I doing at the moment, Tim? What things have spawned in term 1 of 2025? Tell the people. Tell the people how busy bee I am.
That's not my question.
Soz. Okay, fine.
So my question was going to be, how does the speed at which you work and the way that you think play out for things that you're passionate about?
Well, in the workspace, I reckon people are getting the equivalent of 5 occupational therapists in one session. Because I can pivot on a dime, I've already thought ahead, I can see the trajectory of what's going to unfold based on the behaviours that I'm observing from the child, from the parent, and I can adapt and flex. I'm creative, so I'm creatively wired. So already I'm thinking, this isn't going to work the way I initially planned it. How can I do it different? Case in point, today in a session, we were just going to sniff some corn thins and explore it and touch it. And then in the moment, I was like, jeepers, this kid is like high as anything as a kite after playing our last game and last food exploration activity. Let's ride with that energy. And so instead, we had a little sniff of the corn thins and then we used them as frisbees down the hallway. Now, I run my own business and I can make my own rules. And I think that's an excellent way to use the resource of corn thins, a whole packet of flattened popcorn into discs.
I mean, they're effectively frisbees. So,
they are effectively, and that's what we use them as. But there was blow a kiss and send the frisbee on its way. Give the frisbee a lick and send it on its way. Then the siblings wanted to join in. Mum was laughing hysterically. I was laughing hysterically. The kiddo was living his best life. And at the end of the day, there was warmth. There was gentle exploration with no pressure. But because of my mind and the way that it's wired, I could pivot, I could sense those things. I basically just do a vibe check and I'm good to go. I can get a sense of how someone's feeling as they're walking towards me, and I can pivot from high energy Trish to slow, soft, regulating Trish, because that is what happened in that little moment of me observing. And as occupational therapists, observation is like our ninja skill. It's our excellent skill. We observe, we take in the environment, the person, everything around them and their body mechanics and their psychology and the way their brain is processing things. And then we work out how can we adapt to the situation or how can we change the approach to make it a more effective or a win. And I love that I get to use my brain in a way that I can pivot on a dime, and I've hyper-focused on that many things from birth to now that I can relate to those that love music and play music. I can relate to those that love to do art and create with their hands, to make things out of clay, to make things out of soy candle wax, to make earrings. I've even gone through my earring making era. I mean, at the end of the day, Tim, let's just tell the listeners, our garage is full of boxes of shit that I will never use because I hyper-focused on it for anywhere between 24 hours to 3 years, and then it's just dead to me after I've run its course.
That's okay, because I now know I can just quietly move it on.
No, because that might cycle back. What have you got rid of?
I haven't got rid of anything. Nothing.
Ooh, Tim.
It's all there and
Can
catalogued.
you just write that down? We are tabling that for later. My goodness.
Catalogued. No, there's nothing I've thrown out. It's all good.
Sure, okay.
So
Facebook Marketplace, return those things that have sold you.
I'm gonna come back to the fact that, or just try and paraphrase what you were talking about, that one of the things that you think is great is that you have the ability to think quite broadly, think quite creatively, and do that at quite a quick speed. Hence launching this particular podcast. So hopefully people are listening, which is the whole point. or watching or whatever, what type of community, for lack of a better word, are you trying to create through Real Zeal? And how do you want to connect with people in that space? Because your plan is to have a variety of different guests come on and talk.
Your questions are so long, my love, that I've already forgotten the first part.
Yeah, it's
Can
easy.
you just make it a one-liner?
What type of community would you like to create in this space?
A real community. So the name of the podcast is really intentional. Real meaning authentic, and zeal meaning like energy, sparkle, zest, all of those kind of adjectives. Yes. So basically what I'm hoping to create is authenticity and validation that being your authentic self is actually your best self. Being a masked self is a subpar version of who you were created to be. Every single one of us on this earth are different. Whether you are neurodivergent, another neurokin of yours is not going to be exactly the same profile of you in a sensory way, in an ADHD way, in an ADHD way, in an autistic way. Your IQ, your EQ, all of those things are different for every single person on this earth, and even how we look is different. So you can't put two people together and go, hey, here's the cookie cutter model of how to, I hate this term, fix you to be more like everyone else, or to convert you to be more neurotypical. That's not what life is about. I think when people start owning who they are, owning their personality, owning their gifts, their talents, the way they look, the way they operate, those things can be harnessed for good, and we can use those collaboratively and collectively to celebrate one another, rather than cutting everyone down that's different to us. Because at the end of the day, everybody is different to us. But sometimes the marginalised communities, the neurodivergent communities, certain racial group communities, certain religious group communities, certain sexual orientation communities, they feel very attacked because their different is so far different than what the world would perceive as, dirty word incoming, normal. The word normal rubs me up the wrong way, like nails on a blackboard, like rubbing a cat up the wrong way, like velour. I can't even look at velour. But it's just, what I'm saying, Tim, this is really important because I know that you want to cut me off. But what I'm saying is that the more that we embrace who we are, the more that we communicate our needs to others in a respectful way. Hey, the music's a little loud in the car. Do you mind if we turn it down? People aren't inherently mean, nasty, and conniving, mostly. People aren't inherently out to get somebody else. We were created as human beings for community. And yes, you might prefer the recluse life up in a little log cabin and to be a hermit, but you probably will send a little pigeon down the mountain at times to say, I'm having a sad day, send me some friends. Or send me some pebble memes so that I can feel not less alone in this situation or less isolated. So even when people go off and do a walkabout, or they go into the wilderness, or they sail around the world in a boat, they're doing their vlogs talking to someone. When the people on the Alone show that we watched, I always put that in front of stuff, but when we watched Alone as a family.
It goes on the YouTube.
Shush. That's in my other podcast. You're going to have to check out OT for 2. That's my extra other offering. But at the end of the day, we were created for connection, and humankind were created to be helpful towards one another. If you see someone struggling with something, you would have to be pretty hard pressed to walk on past without offering a hand, if you had capacity. And it's not about offering financial help. I mean, some people are blessed in that way to be able to do that, but kindness doesn't have to come in a tangible form, in the sense of money or gifts or stuff. It can actually just be a smile, and co-regulation is all about offering someone the fact of you're not alone in this. So you might be having a poo-poo day, Tim, but when you come home, I read that on your expression, like give you that little knowing look, like bit of a day. And there's that knowing, that connection, that understanding that immediately makes us feel like, I feel seen in what I'm experiencing. And I think at the end of the day, all of humankind is just craving that in one way or another. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
Yeah, so just to summarise that.
That was profound. That's the summary.
The type of community that you're hoping to create
is a real, authentic community.
Is an authentic community.
And a community that learn to advocate for themselves, advocate for their needs in a respectful way, so that we as humankind can be kinder to one another. It's not about the kill them with kindness or the kilo of kindness or the, kind is best or whatever slogan T-shirt you've got with kind written on it. Kind is cool. It's not about that. It's actually about affording one another calm curiosity instead of assumption, instead of, oh, you're out to get me. But actually affording people calm curiosity to go, hey, that's so interesting. I would never approach it that way, but I would love to understand how you got there. And if law enforcement approached individuals like that, if teachers or parents approached children like that, if partners approached each other like that, there would actually be more openness to share and share without being defensive, or do a runner because you think you're going to get walloped or something. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we all operate as human beings out of fear when we feel like we're being confronted. That's how our brains are designed. We go into our brainstem, we go into fight, flight, freeze. And there's a fourth one apparently, but I've forgotten that now. Fart? No, it's not fart. Flight, flight, freeze, fuck off. I don't know. There's four. Anyway, but us as human beings, we've got like a eject button. Our frontal lobe stops working, our temporal lobe stops working, our occipital and our parietal lobe stop working, and we go into our brainstem, which is survival mode. It's like make the heart beat, make the lungs breathe, because that helps the body function. And then it's like, do we fight the situation? Do we stand up for ourselves against whatever bear we're facing? Do we run away? Do we flight? Or do we freeze and just stand there? And for most ADHDers, the ADHD paralysis is a real thing. And we have a lot of things to do, and we can see the mess in every room of the house, and we're just going, and it's like that little Mr. Bean episode when he's trying to pack for the holiday and he's running late and he's like, oh, I need this, oh no, I need this, and you look like a weird robot. But you legitimately watch me do that 90% of the time every day. And it's because I'm having a bit of a brain fart, or there's a glitch in my matrix of I don't know what to do first. And so often then I'll just sit down and doom scroll, because I'm like, I'll just dopamine chase until I've got enough regulation to be able to get up and pick one thing to start on. And that's why body doubling works so magnificently for the ADHDers out there. Sorry, I probably didn't answer the question again because,
Yeah, that's okay.
Side quest.
So this is episode 1.
Yeah.
And I can't see the clock anymore because the computer's turned itself off. But
Shivers, it's still going to be recording.
We hope it is.
Oh, man. Tech is not my thing. I'm literally tech-tarded. Yes, that is a very inappropriate word, I know, but I can't stop saying it because there's no other word that replaces it. Like wisdomous.
It's just not,
Wisdomous replaces being wise. I'm not, but in saying that, I can edit a video and overlay sound, and I've now learned how to do a picture on a picture in a video, and I'm pretty proud of myself.
And you should be.
I self-taught. ADHD is a self-taught. There's none of this go and have lessons. Ugh. That's too slow for us.
So this is episode 1.
This is episode 1.
And it will
if
come
you
out
got
shortly.
to the end, God bless you, because that was an epic ride.
Episode 2 comes out
in a fortnight. So my plan is, much to potentially, I'm hearing the cogs grinding in Tim's head right now. Every fortnight, a new podcast is going to drop for Real Zeal. There will be, as we know with ADHDers, there will be batch recording, because the dopamine will drop and I'll be like, oh my goodness, I've got my next 10 guests. I'm just going to batch record those within the space of a week, and then we're going to edit, and then they're going to drop fortnightly. So it's nice and consistent for the listeners that need a bit of Trish in their ears, need a bit of Real Zeal. And yeah, that's the plan. And we're running on Instagram, we're running on so that's our social media platform of preference. We're running on YouTube, obviously, so there's a visual component for those that like that in the podcasts. But also this is available on like Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and every other podcasting platform. I've got you covered, people. I've thought about it. I've thought about what's the best way that people want to be reached, and I'll just hit all the whack-a-moles at once.
Do you want to sign off?
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the listen, the offerings, getting to know me a little bit better and understanding that Tim is just like an absolute saint putting up with me. But that's what love is, isn't it? It's choosing each other day in, day out. We are blessed to have found each other, to be living out our second act together. We have 3 beautiful kids, don't we, my love?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to give them our attention over the next couple of days, having a little bit of a break as a family from the real world. We're going to disconnect mostly. I'm going to read books with paper because I like to do that. We were supposed to talk about the things that I love and enjoy, which includes earrings, cooking, reading books that are paper, but also on my Kindle because sometimes you just need something light to carry. I'm obsessed with fidgets and what have I left off? Shoes, painting my toenails, clothes, new clothes, hairdressing, love that. Makeup that's really quick and easy to do and effortless to do that doesn't look like you're wearing makeup. What else am I into? Smelling nice, being clean, neat, tidy, orderly, systematic.
Editing podcasts.
So they can get up. Yeah, sorry. Yes, I'm wrapping it up. So I hope you've enjoyed the episode and get yourself some Real Zeal. Bye.
Bye.
I love you. Can we kiss and then come here?
Oh,
Oh, it's run out of battery.
no. Oh, how far have we to be yet?
I've got ADHD, man. I can't be expected to think of everything.
I checked the battery power before.
10 minutes recorded.
No. Interesting. Hit stop. So hit record. Can I go over?
Oh, but I'm the one with ADHD. Someone else should be dotting the I's and crossing the T's, not me. This is an outtake, but it's getting added in there because it's bloody funny. This is the story of my life. I've also got my mum tongue showing now. Very upset.